what's the best way to learn how to be a better marketer, how to be a better copywriter, how to get response. So with the episodes that I put out, my daily emails, I get a lot of beginners coming to me asking me basically this question, what's the best way to get started? How should I start learning? I also get people who are experienced, who are still coming to me and saying, how can I become a better marketer? How can I become a better copywriter? And so what I'm going to teach you, it's this is great for beginners. It's also great it's a nice reminder for old pros. So that's what we're going to cover in today's episode. These are the proven direct response marketing, copywriting, and entrepreneurship success strategies you can use today to write your own ticket and create the life you want. I am Roy Furr, and this is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Now, here's today's breakthrough. So, the best way to learn marketing and copywriting is by doing. It's by doing it, by going out there and doing it, and not just like faking it, not just practicing in, your cave where you're just tapping away on a laptop, just making up marketing and never putting it out into the market. But it's actually by creating some kind of persuasive message and finding a way to get it out in the market in front of prospects and seeing if you can get a response. Now, that's the big answer. I'm going to go into some more details here in just a second. So when I discovered copywriting back in 2005, I said, this is for me. And in fact, I knew that at some point I wanted to become a full-time freelance copywriter. But I also knew that I didn't have the chops. I didn't have the understanding of marketing to be able to go out and immediately turn from working customer service at the local gas company's call center and getting yelled at by people who had their bills or had their gas shut off because they weren't paying their bills. I didn't have the wherewithal to go from that to suddenly being a freelance copywriter working with the direct response companies. And so I chose to get a marketing job. And actually, it was a really smart decision. Number one, because it actually made sure my bills were paid while I was still figuring it out. But number two, it gave me a very immersive experience to actually learn on the job. And, they say the best way to learn a language is to actually go and have an immersive experience in the culture where you're actually having to speak the language just to get coffee in the morning and to go get groceries and all of that. The best way to learn marketing is to actually have an immersive experience where you go in and you're constantly doing marketing. And so when I got that job, I was immediately thrown into a going company. And at the time they were doing about $2 million, a little over $2 million in revenue. And the old marketing person had just moved up to president of the company. So they had a lot of things going. And I also had an opportunity to step into this role and to essentially be mentored inside the company while I was practicing all of these things that I was studying. And so I was constantly reading all the classic marketing books and I was learning all these things, but then I was having to translate it into here's a real world situation, a real world business, a real world product where the business doesn't necessarily adopt and use all the exact same techniques and tactics of direct response that I'm learning in the books. So how can I take everything that I'm learning and translate it to this specific situation? So I learned, from John Caples what ads looked like in print publications in the 1960s. And I have to use that to write an email newsletter for an IT training publisher. And so lots of opportunities to learn, lots of opportunities to practice. And I was out there doing it nonstop. And 40 hours a week, I was creating marketing. I was finding opportunities. I was buying traffic. I was doing everything that I could to practice marketing. And this was the best education because being fully immersed in marketing all the time and finding a way to do that, even if it meant maybe having to put off some of my bigger goals for becoming this freelance copywriter, right? Even if it meant putting that off, it still accelerated my long-term journey because I was willing to invest all that time and effort in learning it in this environment. And then very quickly, I also realized that this company was not doing everything that I wanted to be doing in terms of direct marketing. And if I wanted to get practice doing that type of marketing, I would have to do it myself. And that's when I created what I called a Sandbox side project. And it's a sandbox because you get to play, right? You get to play, you get to do whatever you want. I created a publishing project basically to sell copies of a video my dad had recorded on how to cut foam wings for model airplanes. And it's a very small, very niche market, right? It's like a niche within a small market. And I created a whole website with email autoresponders, and I set up PayPal, and we did fulfillment and all of that. I created this whole Sandbox side project basically so that I could do whatever I wanted. I could experiment in whatever ways that I wanted. And I was like in complete control whether I would succeed or fail, right? And so it gave me an opportunity to, beyond what I was doing for my main employer, to practice marketing in different ways that maybe were more in alignment with my longer term goals of wanting to do this like entrepreneurial online direct response marketing. And so getting the job, doing the Sandbox side project, and also just working with freelance clients. Like even as I was doing all that stuff, I also found opportunities to go after freelance clients and do a little bit of work in the mornings, evenings, weekends, whenever I could fit it in, to do even more direct response stuff and even more copywriting practice. And so it was all about practice. But I don't want you to listen to that and suddenly think, well, why am I watching a video? Why would I go through books? Why would I go through training on learning marketing and copywriting if Roy's just saying, just do it? Because what I want to point out is that all along the way, I was learning all this stuff. Like I was reading the books, I was going through trainings, I was buying programs, I was doing all these different things to learn at the same time too. And I think naturally I fell into what my coach, Joseph Rodriguez, teaches as using the 80-20 rule to apply to your training, to your learning activities. So, the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 principle says that 80% of the results are generated by 20% of the output, but it's this general observation that there tends to be an uneven distribution of things. And when you kind of respect this uneven distribution of things, you have like you're working with how the world tends to work in the best way, right? You're working with how nature tends to naturally manifest. And so he says, same thing applies to learning and doing. So spend 80% of your time doing, and you don't have to track it by the hour or by the minute. You don't have to track it in that way, but just keep this as a reminder. Spend 80% of your time doing, and then spend 20% of your time learning. And some of that learning should be directly focused on, hey, how do I solve this particular problem? And some of that learning should be less focused. It should be, this is interesting to me to learn, and maybe I can make some connections with the particular problem or issue that I'm going after, right? So you're spending 80% of your time doing, you're spending 20% of your time learning, and that learning time you're kind of splitting up based on, hey, some of it I'm actually, like, for example, I want to launch Facebook ads. So I'm going to go study specifically how people do Facebook advertising, and that's useful, right? And that's like focused on solving a particular problem. But then this other time that you spend that's more open, it could be, hey, I'm interested in learning about productivity, or I'm interested in learning about human psychology, or I'm interested in learning about basket weaving, or I'm interested in learning about whatever. But you're taking in more good stuff, right? You're learning more good things, and your brain will naturally start to connect the dots. And so your main focus right now may be, hey, I need to launch and build my Facebook advertising account. But if I'm also learning about psychology or productivity, I may find something there that actually I'm able to cross-pollinate into what I'm learning specifically about Facebook. Or I need to learn specifically about Facebook, but if I study copywriting or offer strategy or something else, that may, in particular, feed into what I'm learning about Facebook directly, like that very tactical, technique-based learning about Facebook can be supplemented by things that are less focused on the same implementation channel, and that are instead feeding you with principles and strategies that can inform what you're doing inside of that implementation channel. I hope that makes sense. And one thing that I'll say is that you don't even necessarily, like the way that I've fit this in throughout my career in marketing, which is now over 15 years long, the way that I fit this in is I don't tend to spend a lot of time just focused on, hey, I'm going to study this thing. Now, reading is kind of an exception, and I'll read here and there, and I'll fit reading in. But I tend to consume a lot of content when I'm, let's say, doing the dishes, doing yard work, driving, exercising, whatever the space is that I can fit this content in. And multimedia tends to work really well for this. Whatever the space is that I can fit this content in, when my mind is kind of open to wander, but my body is busy, I will use that time to learn things that can move me forward. And so take advantage of that spare time where you might otherwise be not spending it growing yourself. And I don't necessarily think you should spend every minute of your spare time like focused, because that will cause undue stress. But if you spend some of that spare time learning, you will be moving yourself forward, and you'll be gathering input that will increase the quality and the effectiveness of your output going forward. So I guess just to recap, the best way to learn marketing copywriting is by doing it. And you should really spend like 80% of your time focused on doing it in some way, like finding a way to actually do marketing and copywriting work that actually gets into the market and generates a response, so you can see what that response is, and then use learning time to feed the quality and the effectiveness of your doing time. Spend 20% of your time learning so that you can so that you are learning and implementing, because every time you implement a lesson that you pick up from learning, you're going to learn it on a much, much deeper and more effective, more useful, more lasting level. So, what do you think? Leave a comment with this. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, how valuable are you finding this and why? What are your takeaways? What are your action items from this episode, from these episodes in general? Also, tap that like button before you go so you get more content like this delivered to you. And so the magical algorithms of the internet will know to share it with more people like you who will find it valuable. You can certainly share it with folks directly and subscribe before you go. You can subscribe here. You can also go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com, where you can sign up for my daily emails Monday through Friday, including these episodes and more exclusive content for email subscribers. And if you want to go deep on learning marketing and copywriting, not only should you be subscribed to the daily Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, but you should try out the BTMS Insiders training library. It's like Netflix for copywriting and marketing and entrepreneurship training. You pay one low monthly fee. You get unlimited streaming access to everything. There's over 130 hours of focused content in there, in more comprehensive courses than I can cover in these individual Breakthrough Marketing Secrets episodes. And again, you pay one low monthly fee for access to everything. The link is in the description with this episode. My name is Roy Furr. This has been your daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. I always aim for 10 out of 10 value. I hope that I've delivered it here, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. See you soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.